take this guy down.
Wait till I get closer! Start her now! Holy shit!
Hey, what is happening guys, Chris here, and in this video I'll be giving my complete review on Battlefield Hardline. Just like all the other games in the franchise, it's a first person shooter and has both a story mode and online competitive multiplayer. Hardline is actually developed by Visceral Games, the same team that brought you the Dead Space series. They've had some past experience with the franchise though by working on Battlefield 3's Endgame DLC. Hardline was published by EA and is available on the PS3, Xbox 360, PS4, Xbox One and PC. Rather than being the usual Battlefield type game, Hardline trades in the soldiers and the wars for cops and criminals. The story takes place in different locations such as Miami, LA and California. You assume the role of Nick Mendoza, a new detective on the scene who is set to uncover the source of a drug supply chain, and he's stuck between a gang war. There's all your typical cop series themed traits thrown in here such as corrupted police, drug busts, and the usual cliched bad guy in charge. But even though the plotline and theme was nothing really out there in terms of the regular cops and criminal stories we've all seen before, Hardline is really quite well written, and it kind of felt like I was watching episodes from a cool and interesting TV series. And the story felt miles better than the past few Battlefield games' single player campaigns. Though it still doesn't have the wit and charm that the Bad Company games had, the voice acting and dialogue is done pretty well. The characters are all much more pronounced, and have more personality than the forgettable plain soldiers from the past couple of games. Now it's fairly obvious that Visceral have put more effort into creating a better single player campaign than past titles. And I think they've shown this well. It's not without its flaws, but it's headed in the right direction for the franchise. I definitely recommend playing through the story and trying it out at least, especially if you normally skip the single player campaign and rush straight to multiplayer. You might be pleasantly surprised. The actual levels in Battlefield Hardline's single player campaign are structured with a less linear sandbox style layout, allowing you more choice and options to complete objectives in your own way. It's not open world, but the way most of the campaign is constructed, it allows for a variety of different playing styles. Instead of running through areas gunning your enemies down one by one, you can now choose to be stealthier. Enemies now have vision cones and you can choose to take them out in non-lethal ways, and even arrest them, leaving them handcuffed to the floor. You can scan areas and uncover things in the environment such as weapons and alarm systems to help you plan your way forwards, in a Far Cry kind of way. The new stealth mechanics combined with the larger open maps and police equipment allow for some actual thoughtful decisions and planning. Though you can still just run in guns blazing if you wish, even if that's probably going against the law itself. By choosing to follow a stealthier path, which the game really encourages you to do, you're rewarded more points, which can be used to unlock new guns and gear in single player missions. The gunplay feels tight and reactive, but overall pretty similar to the previous Battlefield games. Though there's a lot more close quarter chaos and firefights that happen in smaller confined areas that help make the gameplay feel fast and frantic at times. Hardline uses the Frostbite 3 engine, the same engine which ran Battlefield 4, and graphically it looks fairly similar. And that's not a bad thing though, as it looks pretty damn good. The game runs at 60 frames per second at 900p on the PlayStation 4 and 720p on the Xbox One. Visually the environments and character models look detailed, nothing groundbreaking but still good nevertheless. And the facial animations and movements of the characters all look natural, helping to immerse you more in the game. Battlefield Hardline is also out for last gen consoles too, the PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360, but obviously the graphics and performance won't be as polished on these platforms.
Last gen tech.
I did encounter the occasional glitch whilst playing, one specifically when breaching through a door on one of the single player levels. Also when arresting some of the bad guys, I did notice that if they were near an object or a wall, their head would sometimes go through the game's scenery. The glitches didn't happen too much, but they did take me out of the experience a little bit. So of course the obvious point to make out is that Battlefield Hardline breaks the mould in the series and turns away from the military style it's most famous for, and focuses around cops and robbers. But at the end of the day, it's still a Battlefield game, and it wouldn't be right to take away the crazy firefights and those Battlefield moments we've all grown to love. So there's still a whole load of over-the-top Michael Bay kind of action throughout your gameplay, but in a way it feels a bit weird being able to kill hundreds of enemies, even if they are criminals, as a policeman. You can play the game whilst arresting people and performing non-lethal takedowns, but there's usually going to be a body count by the end of each chapter, and morally, it feels a bit strange to try and tie this into the whole story whilst playing as the good guy. Hardline also outputs a much more comical laid-back tone, whereas older games in the series tried hard to be serious and gritty. Instead of shouting military-style language, the cops and criminals will make reference to memes and swear at each other. Hardline throws most of the formality to the side in exchange for funny moments and an urban westernised setting. The police force have a crazily unrealistic amount of firepower, but it doesn't really matter so long as it's fun. I don't think Hardline is supposed to be taken too seriously anyway. Now, it wouldn't be a Battlefield game without online multiplayer, and Hardline is no different. There's several new game modes this time around, including Heist, where criminals have to break into a vault or armoured van and move cash to an extraction point, and police have to stop them. Blood Money, where both teams have to reach a crate in the map's centre and collect money, which is then taken back to their base. Players can also essentially rob each other's money from bases too. Hotwire, where there's cars around the map which act as conquest-like points. Driving these around will bleed the enemy tickets, and the team that runs out of tickets first loses. Rescue, which is a 5 vs 5 mode where SWAT players must rescue hostages from the criminals. And there's Crosshair, which is also a 5 vs 5 mode where criminals must kill a VIP on the other team, whilst the cops protect them and guide them to an extraction point. There's also good old-fashioned Conquest, where players control flags around the map to win, and Team Deathmatch, where players basically kill each other until their team has reached so many kills. Now, there's only 9 maps at launch, but they're all very well made, and because of all the unique game modes and the game's overall tone, it feels quite fresh. But if you played Battlefield before, you should know what to expect, and it's quite similar. There's a wide array of weapons, attachments and cool new gadgets like the grappling hook and zipline. These can be used for some clever tactical decisions, depending on the game mode. The multiplayer is just as fun as it's always been, especially with the inclusion of the new modes and gadgets, although I'm a little bit disappointed by the number of maps. The story mode has collectibles which come in the form of case files and open warrants, and these are found throughout each of the game's chapters. Overall, Hardline takes about 7 to 8 hours to complete, so it's not exactly the longest game in the world, but its multiplayer could extend that lifespan for much more. You can reach up to rank 150 online, and of course acquire all of the weapons and attachments in the game if you wish. And there's also DLC content planned for another premium service, which will not only gain you access to the future map packs, but also extend your online rank to a new zone called Legendary Status. The only catch is, premium costs almost the price of the game itself, so think hard about getting it before you empty your wallet. Battlefield Hardline is a game that doesn't take itself too seriously, and still delivers all the high-octane action that we've come to expect. With a much improved storyline and narrative combined with the multiplayer's organised chaos, the traditional formula has been altered with a more easygoing tone, making Hardline feel different, but at the same time not too different. The police setting does feel a bit out of place at times, especially when armed with guns and weaponry that just wouldn't happen in real life. And this takes away from the whole realism that helped contribute to the game's plausibility. But because it's only a game, I'm not going to stress too much about this. I'd rather have a fun experience over a realistic one any day. So that pretty much sums up my review on Battlefield Hardline. I hope you enjoyed it and found it useful. Hit that like button if you did, and subscribe to see loads of other reviews and Battlefield Hardline content on my channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.
Not a word.